Oi, pessoal, boa noite. Tudo bem com vocês aí? Bem-vindos a mais um webinar da CI. Se você está aqui hoje é porque você tem a intenção de ter uma residência permanente no Canadá, e é por isso que a gente está aqui mais um dia a pedido de vocês para a gente fazer mais um encontro falando sobre a imigração para o Canadá. E quem está aqui comigo hoje também é o Ian, o Bessel, que estão direto do Canadá, estão em Toronto, e eles vão comandar aqui comigo hoje esse nosso encontro, esse nosso bate-papo. Aproveita, já vai colocando as suas dúvidas todas aí. A gente tem uma equipe aqui prontas para te responder, para tirar todas as suas dúvidas. E, claro, o Ian, que vai estar aqui comandando junto comigo, ele vai apresentar aqui todas as informações para vocês, tirar as dúvidas. E se tiver alguma dificuldade aí, alguma coisa para entender o inglês, porque o nosso encontro é 100% em inglês daqui a pouquinho. Agora não, agora estou em português aqui para que a gente faça essa abertura e a gente siga com tudo. E aí, a gente, se ficar alguma dúvida, é só interromper aqui, perguntar que a gente vai respondendo. As dúvidas vão ser, as perguntas e todas as informações, a gente tira tudo isso no final e durante aí todo o tempo da nossa apresentação, vão mandando perguntas que a gente vai segurando aqui para a gente trazer todos os detalhes para você. Boa noite, Ian, tá por aí? Tudo bem com você?
Oi, Eli, estou por aqui sim, tudo bem?
Tudo jóia, tudo legal. Obrigado aí mais uma noite com a gente para tirar todas as dúvidas, que eu sei que essa galera que está aqui está doida para ir morar no Canadá, assim como você.
Não, legal. Esse evento aqui já é o segundo webinar, né, Willy? Foi super popular o primeiro, por isso nós repetimos agora o segundo. É de um tema extremamente quente, né? Vir morar para o Canadá. A gente sabe que esse é um tema que os brasileiros sempre se interessam bastante. E a ideia é justamente a gente explorar esse tema o máximo possível, obviamente de uma maneira genérica, né? Para daí já dar um alicerce para os nossos clientes que se interessarem em seguir em frente, né?
Sem dúvida. Ian, tá contigo, eu tô por aqui, se precisar de alguma coisa me chama aí, e se tiver alguma dúvida, alguma coisa, eu te interrompo aqui também para perguntar, e volto no final para a gente finalizar, mas eu gostaria aí que você seguisse com todas as informações e detalhes. Obrigado mais uma vez, tá com você. Tchau, tchau.
Valeu, Willy. Bom, pessoal, boa noite. Meu nome é Ian, eu sou responsável aqui pela operação da CI aqui no Canadá, diretamente de Toronto, aqui onde eu estou agora, coordenando junto com vocês esse evento, né, trazendo aqui o nosso parceiro, a Incubate, que é um consultor de imigração, né, uma consultoria de imigração aqui no Canadá, e justamente para trazer a informação de quem de fato conhece, né? Os consultores de imigração aqui no Canadá, eles são certificados, eles são auditados, então as informações que eles provêm para o mercado, para os clientes e tudo mais, são absolutamente fidedignas e por isso que é interessante o nosso evento para que vocês tirem essas dúvidas. Como o Willy falou, nós vamos fazer esse evento em inglês, tá? O Bassel é aqui do Canadá, ele vai falar tudo em inglês, até um teste para vocês já pegarem o inglês de vocês necessário para a imigração também. Eu vou estar aqui o período todo, então se vocês tiverem qualquer dificuldade, qualquer questão, eu faço a parte da tradução do inglês para o português e português e inglês. E é super interessante, aqui embaixo no YouTube de vocês, façam suas perguntas, tá? Vão fazendo, vocês vão ter questões, vão fazendo suas perguntas, que nós vamos ler, vamos tentar deixar para o final, porque daí a gente faz todas as perguntas de uma maneira geral, tá? Podem fazer em português ou em inglês, como vocês se sentirem à vontade, e a gente vai tentar responder todas aí, se o tempo permitir, para que a gente faça, tá? Como eu falei, o Bassel Zweiter, ele é o consultor-chefe da Incubate, e ele que vai fazer a apresentação, então ele vai passar uma maneira geral o processo, né, como é que funciona o sistema de imigração de uma maneira geral, tá? Qualquer dúvida, perguntas aí embaixo, a gente vai responder todas, eu passo por elas depois no final, e eu vou deixar agora com o Bassel fazer a apresentação, e nos falamos aí ao longo da apresentação. Hey, Bassel, how are you, man?
I am doing good. Thank you for that introduction. I got like 10% of it this time.
You were basically, you know Portuguese already, right?
I know, right? I mean, how long I've been working together now. Thank you all for attending this webinar. My name is Basil. For those who have not met us yet, we've been working with CI now many years. I'm based in Toronto. Our offices are all over Canada, and what we wanted to do today is to give you this overall big picture that you need to start preparing yourself for. So regardless if you're planning to stay in Canada for for a very long time and you want to permanently move here, you want to get your immigration, you're planning to come here and study, work, visit, study English or whatever it is, each one of these different avenues has certain requirements, certain things that you need to do, certain items you're going to plan yourself for. So today is going to be your opportunity to listen to this overall picture of visas and immigration in Canada. Hopefully we'll try to do it in around 45 minutes. And then the other 45 minutes, we're going to be talking about all your questions and answers. Like Jan was saying, you can type your questions and then towards the end, we'll take them one by one. Jan is going to be the MC answering and doing all these things in Portuguese. I'll be doing it in English. And then hopefully we'll try to capture as many of the questions as we can. Just so that you know who you're talking to today, and then also whoever you're going to be working with in the future for any visa and immigration requirements in Canada, for somebody to be able to help you regarding immigration or visas, that person has to be licensed in Canada, licensed by the immigration office, right? So for us, for an example, we do have a license to practice all over Canada, including Quebec. So 2 separate licenses that allow us to pretty much help all our clients, regardless if it's for visas or immigration. Like I mentioned, we've got offices in Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal, pretty much all the biggest metropolitan areas in Canada. So whatever you're going to end up choosing a destination, you'll have local support from our side and of course from CI as well. I'm going to skip all the marketing parts. I'm sure nobody wants to listen to that. Just know that the experience that we're going to share with you today comes from thousands of applications and many clients that we've served, in the past, 7-8 years here in Canada. So there's no such thing as one way to do things. Today we're sharing with you our flavor of doing things, right? You go to talk to another consulting firm or immigration company, they might tell you something different, right? So today we're sharing with you what we know works best from our perspective. And of course, it's up to you to decide on what to do next in terms of your selections. What's also nice is our team is pretty diverse, come from different backgrounds. Most of them have done the same thing you're about to do. Come study, work in Canada, apply for immigration right away, use their language proficiency or education in Canada for immigration. So it's nice to see a lot of success stories in our own company, right? Of people who are trying to do the same thing as our own clients and then use that for what we do for a living. So it's pretty nice for us to do that. Now, by the end of today's conversation, you're going to have to make 2 separate decisions, right? One of them is about something called TRS or temporary resident status, and another decision about PRS or permanent resident status. These 2, they go hand in hand. Some people, they decide to come temporarily first to visit, study, work, right? And then they convert their status in Canada to permanent residency. And if they want to get a Canadian passport, they apply for citizenship. And others, they just want to come to Canada as immigrants right away. They want to get their permanent residency right away. It doesn't really matter which direction you're going to take. Just remember, there's 2 different categories, and they can be done in parallel. So at the same time, or one after the other, you will be able to make that choice based on the conversation we're going to have today. Now, before we get into the deep dive, of what permanent residency is, let's just talk about how Canada is today because of COVID, because of the travel restrictions and all that fun stuff. So let's see what's going on for each one of the 3 major categories. So for travelers, for those who are going to come in as visitors, the current exemptions as of October 2nd that were announced is if you have a family member in Canada who's a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen, regardless of their immediate family or extended family, you're actually exempted from the travel ban and you'll be able to come in as a visitor. On the 28th of October, it was announced that all international students, so those who have a approval for a study permit, or they already have a study permit but went back to Brazil because of COVID and they want to return, all international students as of the 28th of October, you're going to be able to come back and enter Canada. Again, you're exempted from the travel restrictions, which is great because Canada is one of the first countries to open their doors back to international students and some visitors as well. So it's nice to see as well. And the third category is workers. So those of you who have a working holiday visa or an LMIA or employer-sponsored work permit, or you have worker status, you've always been exempted from the travel ban as long as you can prove your employment in Canada. So listen, I have a job offer in Canada, or I have a job reference letter because I just went to Brazil and came back, you're exempted. So you'll notice that, let's say by November 1st, all international students are exempted, or foreign workers or temporary workers are exempted. Obviously, Canadian citizens and permanent residents are exempted from the travel ban. And the last category is visitors. They started with family members, and then they're going to expand it little by little by everybody else, with everybody else. Hopefully, over the next few weeks, we see that happening. We're very excited about things going back to normal. It's been an interesting year so far, but hopefully we can turn things around and get back on track when it comes to business. Now let's talk about the main reason why we're here today is permanent residency, or immigration as we call it. Whenever you're going to be thinking about immigration, you're going to first of all make a decision about which avenue, which direction do I want to go to, right? Some of you are going to decide to come to Canada to study or work and use your Canadian education or your Canadian work experience for immigration, right? So they're going to do temporary residence and then immigration. Others, they're going to say, listen, I'm a skilled professional. I have my credentials that make me eligible for immigration, and I'm going to come to Canada directly as a permanent resident. I'm going to come in as a professional right away. Others are going to say, listen, I'm in my 40s, my 50s. I'm done, looking for jobs. I want to go to Canada as an investor, as a business immigrant. I want to open up my small business for 150, 250,000 Canadian dollars, which, by the way, that's a lot of money right now in Brazil with the conversion rate. But you think about it as, hey, listen, it's a way for me to come in through business instead of coming in through employment or work or studies. Others are going to say, listen, I'm married to a Canadian citizen. I have a relationship, like a common law relationship with, let's say, a Canadian permanent resident, and I want to apply through something called spousal sponsorship. And then we're going to cover that in detail later, which is a very interesting way for you to be able to kind of skip the line and go through from an economic-based immigration process to family immigration through your spouse. Similarly, so your family immigration procedures, which the program finally got launched again after being frozen because of COVID. They opened it again on October 13th. That's whenever you want to sponsor your parents, you want to sponsor your grandparents, or you want to sponsor your children, right? So family immigration and spousal sponsorship, technically you're exempted from language proficiency and other things. It's an easy way for immigration through family, which is, compared to others might be a bit faster. And the last thing is obviously refugee or asylum status is whenever you're running away from your country because of discrimination against you, because of some certain circumstances that happen to you that make you feel unsafe in the country that you live in, and you want to go and live somewhere else. Now, these are the main buckets of immigration. There's really nothing other than these avenues. So you're going to have to select one of them to apply. So let's talk about the most common way of immigration, of you coming in as a skilled worker or a skilled professional. How does that work? Well, the first thing the government is going to start asking you is going to say, oh, time out. The first thing I care about for you to come as a skilled professional in Canada is your language. Okay, tell me more about your English or your French. Do you have advanced English or do you have advanced French? If your answer is yes, I do, they tell you, okay, go ahead and continue the talking about the other factors or the other credentials about yourself, and we'll cover those. If the answer is no, I don't have advanced English or French, one of the two primary languages of Canada, they're going to say, okay, fine. Do you have intermediate English and French, both languages? Again, if the answer is yes, you continue. If the answer is no, they're going to tell you, okay, well, then I'm going to need you to come to Canada and integrate with our society so that you can improve your language proficiency, and then you'll be able to continue. So I need you to come and study in Canada. Language or higher education or a college, university, come and study and integrate. Or you're going to come and work in Canada. So you're going to work after you graduate from your studies, or if you're just going to find an employer who's going to give you a job offer or some sort of an offer of employment for you to come and just work in Canada. And then you use your studies and your work to immigrate. Or they tell you, fine, listen, we have all these smaller areas of Canada that if you go and you make a commitment to live there, on the smaller provinces or the small remote areas on the big provinces, they say, we will support you and lower the requirements for you in order for you to go to these areas, because not too many immigrants want to go there. If you promise to go there, we'll help you. So these are the different things you're going to think about when it comes to a business profession. But before you get into it, to see how good you are or how qualified you are for immigration, you need to understand your opponent. You need to understand who the person is on the other side that you're going to get into this, cage fight with. The government is split when it comes to immigration to three categories: federal government, the provincial government, and the Quebec government. Federal government is all of Quebec, all of Canada minus Quebec. This is known as express entry. So the system that they use for immigration, it's based on points. And then you'll be able to go anywhere in Canada except for Quebec through express entry. The opposite, if you want to go to Quebec, specifically, you're going to use a system just like express entry. It's called ARIMA. ARIMA is just a copy and paste, literally, for express entry, but for Quebec. Again, points-based system. The only difference between express entry and ARIMA is the fact that in the federal level, you can use your advanced English or your advanced French, and you can proceed with immigration. In Quebec, they mainly want your advanced French for you to be able to be successful in their immigration program. And then for the rest of Canada, there are provinces. Some of you would know these programs as PNP, or the provincial nominee programs. Every province in Canada, they have their own regulations. Some provinces, they want nurses. Others, they want doctors. Others, they want truck drivers. Others, they want certain jobs. And then based on that, based on the local requirements, you can apply for specific immigrations this way. So this is the overall idea behind immigration and the government entities that will be processing your applications. Now let's talk about you. Let's talk about your own credentials. Let's talk about how you're going to be impressing the Canadian government with your own qualifications in order for you to be successful in the federal immigration system, also known as express entry. So in 2015, the new laws and the new regulations for immigration were launched. Before 2015, Canada used to look like a very long line of people waiting in queue. First come, first serve. Whoever applies first on paper is going to have to wait 3-4 years until their application is processed, and then they get their application approved. 2015, government says, listen, I want to automate. I want to create an online system. I want a digital system, no more papers. I don't want 3-4 years processing time. I want 6 months processing time. Everybody get excited. Everybody's going to start getting their application getting done fast. But then the government did one thing that changed everything, which is the reason why we're even here today talking. They created something called ITA, or invitation to apply. And if you look at this picture, it really represents what happens nowadays in immigration. So before, you just met minimum requirements and you go stand in line. But now the government has to select you out of a pool of resources, out of a pool of candidates, and they will pick the best of the best every 2 weeks and invite them to apply. So our job today is to inform you about how you become one of these elite candidates in the express entry system. And the way that you do so is by something called factors. Factors there's many of them. We're going to focus on the 4 most important ones. Language proficiency, again, English and French. I wish they would give you more points for Portuguese. Then that'll be actually kind of nice. But then it's English and French. Your education, so your post-secondary education that you've done, your work experience that you also have done. Again, but here it has to be a professional occupation. They call it NOC, or National Occupation Classification. It has to be an office job for it to be qualified. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then the last thing is your age. Now, what's interesting is, look, you can always improve your English and your French. You can always study more and get higher education. You can always collect more years of experience. Age is the only thing that works against you. So from the age range of 19 to 29, you get the maximum points for age. As you get older, you start losing more points. Now, it doesn't mean that if you're 35 or 40, right, that you can't apply for immigration. All that means is the older you get, the more you have to do on the other factors. Improve English and French, study more, and work more in order for you to get the necessary points. So for this to make sense, let me give you an example of a profile. So let's say a candidate speaks intermediate English, no French. That person has a university degree, so bachelor's degree, no post-graduation, no master's, 3 years of experience back in Brazil, and let's say this person is 29 years old. Such profile is going to have around 290 to 350 points. Now, individually, this points is great. I mean, what are you going to compare it to? Well, the government right now, as of 2020, they're selecting candidates at 470 points, 470. This is the magic number that the government is targeting right now, 470 to 475. And I'll show you the table in a minute. So you're sitting in the pool, right, in the system at 350. The government wants 470. So how do you go from 350 to 470, right? The 120 points, how can you gain them in order for you to be selected? There are different ways to do so, and we're going to talk about it. But what's more important is for us to understand what 470 points mean from the eyes of immigration, from the government's perspective. What does 470 points mean? Well, they say, okay, 470 equals language must have advanced English or French, one of the two. Education must have master's. Work must have 3 years minimum work experience, and then age must have the age of under 30, so 19 to 29. So you got these 4, you're sitting at 470 points. Any of these 4 credentials fall behind, so just a bachelor's, or maybe you have upper intermediate English or something like that, you're not a bad candidate. You're a good candidate, but you're not going to be at 470 points. Now, usually this is where some people say, oh no, well, I have everything that I need or I can work on it, but I just have a bachelor's. I don't have a master's. So what do? Do I need to go and do my master's? Well, the Canadian government gave you an option here, and they said the following. If you have a bachelor's degree and you study a 1-year post-graduation, right? So you do it in Brazil, you do it in Canada, it doesn't really matter. And then they said a combination of a 1-year diploma plus a bachelor's degree is going to give you the same effect in immigration as a master's degree. And I'll show you how you'll be able to get these points. So those of you who don't have higher education and you're considering it, if you want to do higher education, do your master's because you really want to, amazing, go for it. But if you're going to take a master's just for the purpose of immigration, now you have 2 options. You either do just master's or you can do a 1-year diploma. You come to Canada and you study, you're going to end up doing it in Brazil. It's not really going to make a difference. Of course, if you study in Canada, you're going to be able to get more points, and I'll show you how many points you get from your Canadian education. Now back to the 470 points. This is the table of every single selection, every single draw that the government has been doing in 2020. And you look from January till now, the minimum score, it never went under 470, right? So 470 all the way to around 475 is the selection point. This is the range that you need to be at in order for you to be successful in the, they call it FSW, or the Federal Skilled Worker Program. What's interesting is, so federal skilled workers, whenever your experience is from outside Canada, from Brazil, let's say, if your experience is from inside Canada, there's a completely different immigration program, also under express entry, but it's called CEC, or the Canadian Experience Class. This is based on your Canadian experience. So if you work in Canada for 1 year, you don't qualify for, well, you qualify for CEC, not federal skilled worker. The points for CEC, they're much lower, right? So instead of 470, you see that the score went down to 440, 431. So not only, so if you come to Canada, work, and you have 1 year experience here, not only are you going to get more points for immigration for your Canadian experience, but the points you have to collect are lower because you're going to go after CEC with your Canadian experience, which is pretty nice. So how do you go from 350 that we talked about in the example to 450 or 470 just by doing one thing, which is language, or focusing on your language? Well, check this out. The government said, if you have 3 years of work experience in Brazil, and you have something called CLB level 9, or Canadian Language Benchmark level 9, for this to make more sense to you, those of you who are familiar with the IELTS test, if you're going to take the general training test, if you do 7 in reading, 7 in writing, 7 in speaking, and 8 in listening, a combination of these 4, that's considered advanced language proficiency in English. There's something similar in the French exams. So if you have CLB level 9 and you have 3 years of experience in Brazil, the government is going to give you 50 bonus points. So you go from 350 to 400. So far, you haven't even stepped a foot in Canada, or you only came to Canada to study English. Now you continue. Same thing. If you have a master's degree, or if you have 2 degrees, like we said, a bachelor's plus 1 year diploma, a combination of these 2, plus CLB 9 in English, so advanced English, again, the government is going to give you an extra 50 points. So suddenly, you go from 350 to 450 simply by focusing on your language. So if you already have 2 degrees from back home, from Brazil, or a master's from Brazil, and you have 3 years of experience from Brazil, and you come to Canada just to work on your English, or you stay in Brazil and you do online courses in Canada for your English because of COVID and travel restrictions, you're going to get 100 points. Don't have a master's? Simple. You come to Canada, do a 1 year post-graduation here, and then you work on your English, you'll get the same 100 points. Life is good. Okay? Now, the definition of work experience, because I know some of you don't, not everybody has full-time work experience. Sometimes you have 2 part-time jobs. So the definition of work experience is minimum of 30 hours per week. So if you have 1 job with 30 hours per week and above, continuous for 12 months in a professional occupation, we called it NOC, 0AB, then that kind of work experience, you'll be able to use it for immigration. Now, if you have only, if you have a job that's 15 hours a week and another job for 15 hours, but it's similar. So, I'm an operations coordinator, like an office administrator in this company and an office administrator in this company, 15 hours, 15 hours, or 20 hours, 20 hours. You combine these 2, and that gives you 1 year of full-time experience. So it doesn't really matter how you mix it, it works. And also here, because I know in Brazil, you guys also have a internship. As long as your internship is paid, you received money as salary, doesn't matter how much money you received. Paid internships in Brazil do count. So if you have a 1 year or 6 month paid internship, right, that does count towards immigration. Now, when it comes to financial admissibility, when it comes to proving that you have enough money to support yourself for the first year, again, we're talking about immigration, yeah? We're not talking about students and visitors. We're talking about immigrants who want to apply for permanent residency. Depending on your family size, you need to show certain amount of savings. So let's say if it's just you and your spouse, that's a family of 2, you need to show in your bank account around 16,000 Canadian dollars. And then you'll be able to process your permanent residency application. You will just have to calculate the total amount relevant to your family size. For those of you who are going to use work or studies for immigration purposes and get points from that, let's first talk about the kind of work permits you can get in Canada and how you can qualify for them. The most common kind of work permits that everybody talks about in Canada is something called PGWP. PGWP stands for Post-Graduation Work Permit. After graduation, you come to Canada, you study, you graduate. After you graduate, the government is going to give you a work permit that allows you to stay for 2-3 years after you're done with your school in Canada. If you're married, if you have a spouse, a common law partner, while you're studying in Canada, and then after that you graduate and you get your post-graduation work permit, your spouse will be able to get something called an OWP, or an open work permit. So imagine the scenario. You're studying full-time for 1 year and working part-time in the same year. Your spouse will be able to work full-time for 1 year. You graduate, you apply for your PGWP, post-graduation work permit. Your spouse will continue working with an open work permit. So imagine this, you can actually have a 5-year plan. When you go to, let's say, a public college for 2 years, and then you get a work permit for 3 years, and your spouse will be at the same time with you working for 5 years. You don't need the 5 years, right, for immigration. Technically, after 1 year or 2 years of working in Canada, you can apply for immigration, but it's a safe 5-year plan. Now, you want to go to college for 1 year, and you want to get just 1 year work permit, your spouse will get 2 years, totally fine, right? It all depends on you and your comfort level when it comes to obtaining these kind of permits. If you don't want to go through the studies route, if you want to say, hey, listen, I need an employer to sponsor me, I want to get a work permit based on something called LMIA, or Labor Market Impact Assessment. I'll talk to you about this in 1 minute, and I'll explain to you what that is. And there is something else called LMIA exemption code, as in I can come to Canada, I can get a work permit, and I don't need a company to sponsor me. And again, I'll talk to you about that in a minute. And the last category is something called IEC, or the International Experience Canada class. This is based on your nationality. So Canada's got 34 countries that there's a bilateral agreement with them. If you are a citizen of these nationalities, you'll be able to apply for something either called working holiday or something called young professionals. Brazil has to go through something called recognized organizations up to the age of 35. You can potentially get a working holiday visa for 2021. For 2020, everything is shut down, obviously. And if of those of you who have dual nationality, so if you're Brazilian and you have an Italian passport, if you're Brazilian and you have a Portuguese passport or a Spanish passport, you can use your second nationality to apply for this program as well. Again, not for 2020, it's for 2021. Let's talk about LMIA for a second and how this works. I want you to think about it this way. Canada wants to hire Canadians. A company wants to get somebody from Brazil to do this job. So the company has to prove to the Canadian government that they have recruited Canadians for a month. They tried, and they couldn't find any Canadians. So they went, and now they're going to hire somebody from Brazil to do this job. And if this process is approved, the employer is going to be able to sponsor you to get a work permit and come and work in Canada. It's an interesting way to do things. It's a very good way to do things, but the chances of you getting a job offer, an employer to sponsor you while you're still back in Brazil, it's going to be a bit hard. It happens, of course, if you're talented or your company is willing to do that for you, that's great. If not, most people after coming to Canada, working part-time or using their other kind of work permits or even the study permits for part-time work, then their companies would be able to sponsor them and they can get an LMIA. But what does it mean to come and study in Canada, to work in Canada, to get an LMIA? You know, when we talked about PNP or the Provincial Nominee Program, what does that really mean in terms of points for immigration? Well, like we said, the PGWP could be up to 3 years, the open work permit up to 5 years for the accompanying spouses. So if you work in Canada for 1 or 2 years, you're going to get an extra 40 to 60 points. If you study in Canada, you're going to get 15 to 30 extra points. If you get a job offer and you get an LMIA approved based on your job position, but let's say you're going to get around 50 points. And then if you're going to get nominated by one of the provinces, the PNP programs, you're going to get 600 points. Usually here people, I'm like, excuse me, there's a typo. It says 600. Why do I need 600? I've got 350. Give me 600. That's way too much. Why do I need this for? The number 600 comes in because that's the maximum number of points a person can achieve. So the government is telling you, look, if a province is going to nominate you, they're going to accept you, they want you to come and live in their province, they're going to give you the maximum number of points anybody can get in order for you not to get immigration, in order for you to get an invitation to apply, and then the ITA, and then process your normal immigration process. So they're helping you, skipping the line from the province so you can go to the federal government and apply for permanent residency. So if you calculate the potential number of points you're going to get from your Canadian education or your Canadian work experience, you're looking at another 100 points. So if you come to Canada with your language proficiency and everything else with around 400 points, by the time you're done studying and working, that's around 500 points or 480 points. Depends on the language level that you're going to have. Now, I'm going to talk to you about something interesting, which is French. All of you speak Portuguese, except for me. So you use Latin characters. So it's easier actually for you to learn French than it is for you to learn English. English is good, but then French potentially can go a bit faster for you. Now, we're not talking about Quebec. We're not talking about Montreal. If you'd like to do that, that's great. But we're talking about all of Canada. Canada is a country that has 2 official languages, and they want to support that. Mainly people here speak English outside of Quebec. So what the federal government has been trying to do is to support those who speak English and French, and then give them extra additional opportunities, both for work and also for immigration. So let's talk about, first of all, just immigration. So in the express entry system, without doing anything else other than language, if you have an upper intermediate level of French, we call it B2 or CLB level 7, intermediate level of English, CLB 5 for B1 in French, a combination of these two will automatically give you 30 bonus points in the express entry system. So if you had 340 points because you lost, let's say, 20 points under the age factor, and then you study French and you do B2 in French, you get an extra 30, you go up to 470, 480 points, and life is good. No education, no college, nothing else is required, just your French. That's one benefit you're going to get out of your French in the express entry system. The other super, super interesting thing about French is if you're going to get a job offer, so if you're going to come to Canada, like we said, and you're going to get a work permit, and you're supposed to get the employer to sponsor you, right? The LMIA process. Well, guess what? If you speak French at an upper intermediate level, B2, other than the 30 points you're going to get it from immigration, you're actually exempted from LMIA under exemption code C16. Here, what this means is, let's say you're in Canada, visitor status, student status, whatever your status is, you studied French, you have B2 in French, you do a couple of interviews, a company says, I like you, I would like to hire you, and here's your job offer, just like the same thing they would do for any other Canadian with no sponsorship. You take your B2 in French, you take your job offer, and you'll be able to get a work permit, LMIA exempt under exemption code C16. So this is interesting. Now, if you go back to that slide we talked about, which is advanced English, now you have the option of doing English and French half and half. So you can come and study 2 languages, and that you can use for your immigration purposes. Okay. Now, how can you use your French for immigration? If you don't want to work, you say, listen, I'm going to work with CI, I'm going to take these French courses, and I'm going to do whatever, right? How can you use that just purely for immigration, for permanent residency? Well, I'll give you an example. Many programs, one of them, this is a provincial program, if you remember the PMP. So there's the provincial program in Ontario for those who speak English and French. Right? Again, we're not talking about Quebec. We're talking about Toronto, Ottawa. We're talking about central Canada. This program says the following. The government wants your experience back home. So they say, listen, even if you don't come to Canada and you study, even if you don't come to Canada and work, even if you don't have a job offer in Canada, right? If you're going to be selected for this provincial program, you're going to get your 600 points. So the way that you qualify for this kind of program is for you to have 1 year of experience in Brazil, a bachelor's degree, a university degree in Brazil, upper intermediate level in French, B2, and I put the score here for you for the TEF exam to know what the score you need to get in each one of the brackets. Intermediate level of English, so, IELTS 5 to 5.5. And then you need to get a nomination or the notification of interest for you to apply. If you have these credentials, right, you're good to go with this program. Now, where's the problem? The problem is, of course, COVID happened. And when COVID happened, hey, how can we make Basil's life miserable? Oh, I know what we can do. We can change things. So if you noticed, these are all the draws that have been happening for this PMP program for Ontario. For over 5 years, there was no minimum score. Literally, you come to Canada, study English, French, half French, bachelor's degree, 1 year of experience, submit your application, and life is good. What happened in January of this year, the government wanted to slow things down, so they just implemented a small number, a minimum score of around 425, 424 to 430 for you to be able to qualify for this program. So I want you to think about it this way. You're aiming for 470 points in express entry. It didn't happen. I'm aiming for 450 points for the Canadian Experience class for CEC. It didn't happen. Now I can use my French and I'm going to aim for 425 points and I'm going to be able to go through this provincial program. Okay, so I'm just giving you an example of what you can do when it comes to creating your backup plans. Processing wise, for you to know how this structure will happen, and you will take a certain amount of time to prepare yourself, studying English, studying French, going to college, doing whatever it is that you want to do for 3, 6, 9 months. It depends, person to person, will vary. Then you start with your express entry profile. Then you receive an invitation to apply from either the federal government to go directly to permanent residency, or if you want to go to the provincial program first, get your 600 points, then continue, right? The process is going to be around anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years. Like I said, it all depends on when you apply, depends on how things go with COVID, and also depends on your own personal circumstances. But these are the steps that you're going to go through. When it comes to the backup plans we talked about, right? You're going to be able to say, fine, listen, I understand what I need to do. I'm going to focus on my primary language. So I'm going to do English. I'm going to do my master's or maybe a 1-year diploma in Canada. I'll use my 470 points and apply for my permanent residency. Something goes wrong, and then I'm going to switch from advanced English to English and French, intermediate both. I will get my 30 extra bonus points in express entry, and then I'll continue with my PR. Something goes wrong with all this, fine, I'm going to use my B2 in French, and then I'll be able to come to Canada, get my work permit under the exemption code C16, work in Canada for 1 year, apply for immigration under CEC with my Canadian experience, and life is good. Nope, I'm not in a hurry. I'm going to use the PMP program. So I want to go after the 600 points. I'll use my English and French, and I'll get my 425 points, apply for immigration this way, and off we go. And the list goes on and on and on and on. The point that I'm trying to make is there's 1,000 different combinations for you to be able to do this. Not just one solution fits all. I'm giving you just a snapshot, one pathway that you can consider. For those of you who are totally, completely mad in love with Quebec, not the winter, but the rest of the year, remember, same concept we talked about for express entry, the points, the qualifications, except instead of express entry, you're going to be using ARIMA. And instead of CLB 9 in English, you're going to have to do CLB 9 in French, which is also known as C1. This is the equivalent. So again, Federal Skilled Worker Program, express entry, this is one system. The Quebec Skilled Worker Program, ARIMA, is the second one. Here you use your English or your French. Here you use your French. And then you'll be able to apply for immigration through the Quebec immigration system. It comes to the draws, you'll notice that they slowed it down again for because of COVID. So in June they invited just 7 people. I think I know all their names. And then in September they opened it up back up. So now it's 365 people. Again, little by little is going to come back up. If you're interested, similar to Express Entry, you can do that. Those who are planning to come to or go to Quebec and work in Quebec or study in Quebec, remember you have another program called PAC or PEQ, the Quebec Experience Class. You either go and work in Quebec for 2 years, 24 months, and apply with your French, or you can go and study in Quebec, a program that's, let's say, they call it 1,800 hours. Let's say you're going to do a 2-year diploma, and then with your diploma and a little bit of a work experience in your French, you'll be able to do this. Why is PAC a bit better than ARIMA? Is if you look at the level of French that's required, you only need B2. You need upper intermediate French in PAC, and the same thing for the PAC experience. But for ARIMA, you're going to need around C1 or C2 for you to qualify for that. So that's why we always say, hey, if you're planning to go and study in Quebec, it's actually a good option if you're going to do a 2-year diploma for 1,800 hours. So just keep that in mind as well. Spousal sponsorship. So you coming in for your partner. Canada is really nice when it comes to these things because they accept more relationships than other countries. So if you're going to be in a relationship or you are already in a relationship with a Canadian permanent resident or a Canadian citizen, technically, you don't have to prove your language proficiency in English or French. You don't have to show any education documents. You don't have to show any work experience. The only thing you need to do is you have a genuine relationship with this person. And through this genuine relationship, you will be able to apply for immigration. Now, there are 2 ways to do this, right? If you are outside, if your sponsor is outside, if you guys are outside, that person is a Canadian citizen. That person can sponsor you from outside Canada, and then both of you can come together. But what most common happens is you would come to Canada as a visitor first, and then we will start the sponsorship application from inside Canada. You'll be able to get a work permit. You'll be able to wait for your application, and both of you, you'll be here. Yeah, so you can do it from inside or outside. What's nice is the definition of your spouse in Canada is A, somebody that you are legally married to, B, something called a conjugal partner or a common law partner. What's really cool is, so Brazil, you actually have a certificate called common law. But let's say you don't have that certificate. Let's say you just physically lived with that person for 12 months. If you physically lived with somebody for 12 months, that could qualify you as common law partners, and you don't even need to get married, right? So that's pretty nice when it comes to applying for your immigration paperwork. I'll give you a very interesting statistic I read from the government the other day. Around 30% of all international students end up applying for immigration under spousal sponsorship. So people come here, they integrate, girlfriends, boyfriends, and start dating. They get into the immigration system, and suddenly they fall in love, and they either get married or they live together for 12 months with somebody else, and they apply for spousal sponsorship. And pretty much everything I just talked about for the past half hour gone down the drain. So hey, pick and choose whatever you prefer. For us, the only thing I can tell you is make sure it's a genuine relationship. It's not like, oh, hey, well, my boyfriend can sponsor me. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. Cool. And then just more stuff about how it works. We can explain to you, obviously, this later. It's just not a problem. If you're very close to your parents or your family and you don't want to be disconnected from them, I can't live away from them, right? There is a way to bring them home or bring them to Canada. It's called the PGP, or the Parent and Grandparent Sponsorship Program, where you as a Canadian permanent resident or a citizen, you'll be able to sponsor your parents. It's pretty nice because technically, when you come to Canada and you become a permanent resident, after 1 year of being in Canada and you file your taxes for 1 year, you can apply for something called Super Visa. Actually, let me show you this. You can apply for Super Visa, so it allows your parents to immediately come to Canada 1 year after you become a permanent resident here. They can stay with you for 2 years. Once you have 3 years of taxes that you filed, even if you're still a permanent resident, you're not a citizen, you'll be able to sponsor them under the Parents and Grandparents Sponsorship Program, right? as long as you're able to support them financially. So it's a really nice way to say, listen, I would like to reunify my family in Canada. I don't want my mom and my dad to stay in Brazil. You'll be able to do that. Okay, so it's a nice way to do that. And again, under family sponsorship, you're skipping everything like spousal, language, education, and all that is irrelevant as long as they're your real parents, right? Then you'll be able to sponsor them and apply for that. Those of you who are thinking about, completing the gap, I would like to become a, Canadian citizen and play hockey and eat maple syrup and all that fun stuff. The obligation for you to become a citizen in Canada is physical presence. Even if you come to Canada, become a permanent resident and say, okay, I made it. Yana's CI is going to pay my bills. I'm not going to work. There's no other requirement for citizenship in Canada other than two things. You have to physically reside in Canada for 1,095 days. We don't say 3 years because it's not continuous, right? As long as you physically stay in Canada for 1,095 days, go and come back, travel, do what you want. Once you collect them, right, you'll be eligible to apply for citizenship. The second thing is just don't kill anybody because then you become inadmissible to Canada for security reasons. So as long as your police certificate's in clear and you have your 1,095 days, life is good and you can apply for citizenship. If you're not planning to become a citizen, you just want to continue renewing your PR card, your permanent residency card every 5 years, then you downgrade. So instead of 1,095 days, it's only 730 days, right? So that's, again, we don't say 2 years. You collect 730 days from the 5 years and it's good to go. Then you can get another 5 years. Again, you can't kill anybody. So then you can get your 10 years and then so on and so forth. So nobody will ever force you to apply for citizenship. It's optional. You can stick to your 730 days and continue, or you can upgrade to 1,095 days, apply for your citizenship, and then life is good. This doesn't apply for everybody. Just remember that if, for an example, your parents in the past applied for immigration and they got their permanent residency and they went home and you are a minor and you left with them and you had no choice but to leave, there is a process that we can potentially get your permanent residency back. We will apply for something called a travel document, and then we'll do a little court hearing for us to be able to get your immigration status back. So just remember, if any of you or if your parents immigrated to Canada in the past and they never stayed here and they went home, there is potentially a way for us to help you and try to get your permanent residency back, or we just voluntarily renounce it and start from scratch a new application. So what happens next? What do you do? Where do you start from? This has been interesting. Where is my starting point, right? Everybody's different. Everybody's got different personal circumstances. Some of you are married, some of you are not. Some of you speak French. Some of you want to focus in English. Some of you want to come and study. Some of you just want to come check Canada out. They don't even know, if they're going to stay or not. There's a million different combinations. This just gives you a general idea. Now, this general idea needs to be customized. You need to do a customized evaluation. What about me? What about myself, my family circumstances? I have certain questions I need to ask. I want to get better qualifications. I want to know, we call it the what if scenario. What if I do this? What if I do that? What if my spouse does this? What if? All these things is customized for your case. We walk you through it. We give you an immigration consultation. We give you a report with all your different immigration options. But the most important thing is the terms and conditions, your homework, the things that you need to do for each one of these categories to become eligible for it. In order for you to save thousands of dollars on mistakes, and trust me, we do this for a living. We see people here with, well, why did you do that? Well, nobody told me when I was in Brazil. Nobody guided me when I was in Brazil. Well, this is your opportunity for us to guide you while you're in Brazil in order for us to ensure that you're not going to make any mistakes in the process. The way that this works is we will charge you a fee for this consultation, right? I want you to think about this fee as just as a respect, as an honor system, saying, hey, listen, we're going to spend 2 or 3 hours with you, either on the phone or a video and doing your documents and doing all that and doing research back and forth. But to respect you back, what we always say is, listen, if you're going to trust us and you like working with us and you're going to continue with your permanent residency application with us, we actually give you the 250 back as credit towards your full agreement. So it's one of these scenarios where it's no strings attached. We consult you, we train you, we explain to you, you fully understand what you want to do. And then if you'd like to continue things on your own, you can. If you would like to continue with us, instead of charging you, again, for other things, we take the 250 to whatever the new price of whatever your full retainer agreement is going to be, give this to you as a discount, as a credit, and off we goes, okay? Here, there are different ways to do this. You go to CI's website, you go to our website. If you go to our website, you go to the top right corner in English or Portuguese websites, doesn't matter. Click on schedule a consultation, go down, pick the one that says immigration consultation for 250. Just remember this face, poor Ayrton. Everybody's going to go and click on his name. Ayrton is one of our consultants in Canada who's going to be able to speak to you in English or Portuguese. Obviously, there are other consultants if you prefer to speak to somebody in Spanish. We do have that. In English is also not a problem. But if you want somebody to be able to speak to you both in English and Portuguese, Ayrton will be the best choice for you, and then we'll be able to take it from there. Now the fun part. So all that I said, we're going to now put it into practice and see what everybody has in terms of questions. Jan is going to be the MC. So Jan, the mic is yours.
Hey man, just 62 shots in just one breath. You did it.
You can tell I've done this a couple of times before, huh?
Yeah, it's true. I was expecting you to have some breaks, but it's okay. We went all the way. That's great. So I'm gonna do a very short summary for them and encourage them to place their questions in the YouTube, and then I go back to you for question by question.
Drink my water now.
Ok, you grab your water, yeah. Bom, pessoal, legal. Vamos falar um pouquinho em português agora, só para vocês, a gente já se organizar aqui para as perguntas e respostas. Só a título de sumário para vocês, foi realmente muita informação que vocês pegaram. Foram 62 charts agora rolando para vocês com bastante informação, mas basicamente, só para fazer um apanhado geral do que vocês viram, vocês veem quantas opções existem, quantas alternativas existem para a imigração, né? Quantos aspectos de perfil, quantas opções e caminhos vocês podem escolher, seja através de língua, seja através de trabalho, seja através de experiência profissional, seja através do sponsorship, seja através de casamento, seja através de business francês, enfim, existem muitas opções nisso. Que o Basel tentou passar de uma maneira geral, explorando alternativas de uma maneira bastante geral, né? O que é importante nisso vamos ilustrar para vocês, dando exemplos ou pelo menos regras gerais, para mostrar para vocês que de fato é possível, né, manusear os quesitos e os pressupostos e os scores que você deve fazer para você conseguir eventualmente sua imigração. Foram muitas informações. Se vocês quiserem colocar, já tem muitas perguntas aqui também, mas se vocês quiserem colocar suas perguntas agora, eu vou ler cada uma delas agora para o Bassel e ele vai começar a responder. Se vocês quiserem botar em português, não tem problema. Se vocês quiserem botar em inglês, como já tem algumas, não tem problema nenhum. Façam suas perguntas aqui, por favor, e eu já vou passando aqui à medida que vai entrando, eu vou respondendo, tá? Okay, Bassel, now I'm going to move on to the questions, okay?
Right.
And you started your presentation so well that someone here is wanting to become an immigration consultant here in Canada as well.
Hey, so jobs at incubate.ca, we're hiring, I'm just saying.
Yeah, so it's easy.
Advertise ourselves.
Yeah, so sponsorship is a choice, right? So the question is, what is the current process to becoming an immigrant consultant? Is it still a one-year college program, or has it changed yet?
No. So as of November, they changed the entire process of becoming an immigration consultant. Now it's going to be at a university level diploma. It's still a diploma, still a degree for one year, but it has to go through a specific university. So it's no longer offered in multiple colleges. It's going to be given only in one place. So Queen's University, and there is Sherborne is going to be the one in French. The first batch for the new program starts in January, and then you'll be able to study for 1 year. You can either do it online or in person, doesn't really matter. Depends on the registration that you do. And after you graduate, you'll be able to continue the normal licensing process. But remember, the advanced language proficiency in English that's required for the test, not for the registration of the college. So you can take the normal admissions in the college program, but then after you graduate to take the test, you need to have super advanced English. So if you ever need anything, or if you need an internship because it's part of the program, you can always work with us.
That's great. That's a webinar that offers you. That's a job offer embedded. Yeah, right. And Marcel also asked about the IEC meals for both Brazilians and Europeans. You mentioned about that, and then she's asking about if there are any international news about that. Yeah.
It used to be my absolute favorite program until COVID happened, right? So IEC, the International Experience Canada class, it's a group by itself. There's Working Holiday, Young Professionals, and there's something called Recognized Organizations. Recognized organizations are government entities or government designated entities to be able to support certain nationalities. So you'll hear of something called Go International, Step West, ISEC, different organizations. They will be able to support you based on your nationality. They get an extra few nationalities in addition to the normal list. So for those categories, Working Holiday, it's like a lottery. You put in your name in, and if you get the invitation, you proceed. Young Professionals, if you have a job offer, and Recognized Organization is if you submit your application to a recognized organization, you'll be able to get potentially a support letter from them as well. Program is currently on hold for 2020. I honestly don't think they're going to open up again for this year. Whoever already applied or in the queue, maybe they're going to process them. But then for 2021, the program will start again. Any questions or anything like that, you can always contact us and we'll give you more information about this.
Cool. And Tiago is also asking about, and you just replied to that, just answer for that is that the work holiday visa is available for Brazilians as you explained before. It is through entities, right? Not directly, right?
Yeah. So for Brazilians, it's not. So Brazil is not on the list of the 34 countries, right? They call these the YMA countries, the Young Mobility Agreement countries. Those can apply for normal working holiday, normal young professionals. Brazilians, if you don't have the second nationality that we talked about, you have to go through one of these recognized organizations. So Go International, Step West, there's a bunch of them that support Brazilians. If they give you a support letter, you'll be able to apply. I want you to be super, super careful with all of them. For you to get the work permit is not a problem. Your money will get you anything you want. What's important is what you do with your work permit later on. You need to make sure that you have enough language proficiency, right, in English or in French, in order for you to get a job offer as soon as you arrive. Because think about it this way: you're going to get a 1 year work permit. And if you don't have a 1 year work experience with this work permit, you just wasted your money for these work permits. Because if you get 10 months of experience, it means nothing. So you need to make sure that you get yourself ready first and then get your work permit activated. And again, we have different plans to do this. It also affects your spouse. If you want to get an open work permit, your open work permit, you can't get it right away. You have to come first, get a professional occupation, work for 3 months, then the open work permit for the spouse can be submitted. So we can explain to you all the details, but for 2020, no go. 2021, when they open up in January, we can let everybody else.
Cool. I'm going to say that in Portuguese because I think it's important for them to know.
Sure.
Pessoal, sobre o Work Holiday Visa que o Bassa falou aqui para o Thiago, o que é importante, rapidamente sumarizando, é que ele é aberto para os brasileiros, mas ele é aberto através de entidades intermediárias, não é direto pelo governo canadense. Agora 2020 não tem, por razões óbvias, mas deve reabrir em 2021, assim esperamos. O que é importante disso, que eu acho acho que a parte básica sobre isso é o seguinte: ele vai te dar 1 ano de experiência de trabalho aberta, tá? O que é importante, o que o Bassa mencionou é o seguinte: se você vier e comprar esse visto, porque esse visto é adquirido, né, é um pouco de loteria porque são restritos, mas se você adquirir esse visto, é extremamente importante que você planeje usar esse visto. Por quê? Para efeitos de imigração, você tem que trabalhar o período todo, né, do visto dentro de uma atividade do NOC, né, para que seja válido para você. Então, a importância de você ter né, o idioma bom para que você consiga bons empregos, isso é fundamental. Então, essa preparação é fundamental para que você chegue aqui, ative o seu visto quando você já tem um trabalho já, vamos dizer, engatilhado nisso, para que você possa aproveitar totalmente o período de um ano e ganhar essa experiência para fins de imigração. E também, depois de 3 meses, você ter o seu cônjuge, né, tendo também o work permit junto com você. Tá? Mas isso o Bassel falou que ele pode explicar isso quando, né, para individualmente, caso vocês tenham mais dúvidas sobre isso também. Ok, let's move on. Continuando aqui sobre a questão das outras perguntas, Marcel also asked, so the work experience gained through a private college in Canada counts under the CEC stream, but not for the expense entry? Did I get it right?
So, very good question. So what I was talking about when I mentioned work experience, this is your work experience outside Canada. Now, work experience inside Canada, you need to gain it with a work permit, not a study permit. Any work experience you're going to get while you're a student, doesn't matter, public college, private college, university, as long as you're a student, even if there's a co-op inside your program, right? Or if you're working part-time, your status is you're a student, none of that work experience qualifies in Canada. After you graduate, right, you get a work permit, doesn't matter. So like I said, LMIA work permit, a post-graduation work permit, open work permit from a spouse, IEC, working holiday. Once you have these kind of work permits, that's when you start collecting work experience. You work for a year, and after you get that 1 year, then you qualify under the CEC program. So your study permit and anything related to your co-op or your program, that does not qualify immigration, no matter what the college is, private, public, or university.
Oh, I'm going to say that in Portuguese as well. Bom, pessoal, essa pergunta que a Marcele fez é importante porque para efeito de imigração, toda a experiência de trabalho durante o período de estudo, ou seja, você está estudando num college ou numa universidade, não importa, college público ou college privado, não importa, a tua experiência durante esse período, a experiência profissional, dentro de um co-op, um estágio remunerado, o que quer que seja, embora conte para a sua carreira, para efeito de imigração isso não conta. Tá? Para efeito de imigração, apenas o pedido WP ou um visto de trabalho aberto, trabalhado por ano durante uma duração clara anual, né, base anual, aí sim vai contar para você. Então, durante o período de trabalho, durante o período que você pode trabalhar part-time ou full-time, durante o período e você é estudante ainda, ele não tem efeitos de imigração. Então, isso é super importante no planejamento, que embora seja, obviamente, super positivo para a tua experiência profissional e para gerar dinheiro, para efeito de imigração isso não funciona, tá? Pessoal, continue mandando as perguntas de vocês que eu estou fazendo, pode mandar em português, não tem problema nenhum. Okay, Bassel, there's another question aqui here from Marcel. I'm speaking Portuguese and English at the same time. That's nuts here. Sorry about that. She's asking, any news about the AIPP being renewed next year?
Okay, so the AIPP, that stands for for those who don't know it, that's the Atlantic Provinces Immigration Program. So it is a pilot program. It has been a very successful program, okay? I think it is going to be renewed one more time, similarly to the Northern Ontario rural program. And the same thing, there's also the British Columbia rural program. These 3 programs, they cover the smaller provinces. They cover the remote areas of Canada. And that's why the government is pushing for these programs, because they want to diversify immigrants and they want them to go to all of Canada, not just Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. We would love you if you come here. But if you're going to go to the smaller provinces, that's what these local immigration programs are going to help you with. But I want you to be super, super, super careful. These programs are based on you either attending a college in these provinces, working in these provinces, or having a job offer in these provinces. So I have seen a lot of crazy things online and people advertising guaranteed job offers for the Atlantic provinces. I can't even guarantee you a job right now. So then you're going to tell me somebody in northern, whatever, the coldest area of Canada is going to be able to get you a guaranteed job offer? That's not true. So the way that you want to do it is you're going to use your education in that province. You're going to be using your work experience in that province or a job offer in that province once you're physically there to take advantage of these programs. Are they better? It's not a matter of better. It's like a shortcut for immigration. So if you're going to lose a lot of points under the age factor, if you're in your 40s and you don't want to work in Canada for 3 years, you know what? You go to the Prince Edward Island program, study there 1 or 2 years, you're good to go, graduate and apply for immigration under the Atlantic province. So to answer your question, most probably is going to be renewed along with the two other options you have, right? So if you're interested in this program, there's one also in Ontario. It's called the Northern Ontario program, similar. And also in BC, it's called the Rural BC program.
Oh, you're throwing out a lot of information for me to translate, but I can't do that because
I need to make it more challenging for you. Otherwise, you're going to fall asleep.
Ok, cool. Bom, ele mencionou que é o seguinte, ele enxerga que sim, vai ser o programa do Atlântico. Para aqueles que não sabem, né, o Canadá tem alguns programas específicos regionais, além dos provinciais e os federais, né? Então, o programa do Atlântico é um deles, junto com o de Ontário, na parte norte do Ontário, e o rural em British Columbia, né? Então, são 3 tipos, não são só esses, mas esses são 3 tipos específicos de programa que são focados para colocar pessoas, trazer imigrantes para áreas específicas, né? Como o Atlântico, para a área norte e áreas remotas do BC, para justamente chamar a população. Ele acha que não vai ser cancelado o ano que vem, que dá para continuar, porque tem um foco muito importante para também estimular os imigrantes não virem para Toronto, Vancouver e Montreal o tempo todo. A grande questão importante disso é que, embora ele mencionou que tenha visto muita coisa online muito louca, né, de garantia de job offer, etc., que ele fala para tomar cuidado com essas questões mais miraculosas e tudo mais, o importante é que se você estudar numa dessas regiões, né, trabalhar nessas regiões e conseguir uma job offer nessas regiões, é o caminho para você conseguir alternativamente em relação ao Express Entry. Tá? Bom, seguindo aqui.
Jan, just to let you know for the answer, there was an announcement from March of last year. I just noticed this. I haven't seen this one before. The program is actually going to be valid until 2021 because it's a 2-year extension. So It's actually going to be valid until March of next year, and then potentially they're going to renew it for another 2-year extension until 2023. I think
up to the first quarter of next year is guaranteed already, right?
And then it renews it.
Okay. Bom, ele mencionou que está garantido, ele confirmou está garantido para o primeiro trimestre do ano que vem, até 2021, mas ele acredita que seja possível também ele ser estendido da mesma forma, pelas razões que eu falei. Tá? Bom, seguindo aqui, pessoal, tem uma outra pergunta. Basta, we're going to make the question in Portuguese and then translating in English.
I'll answer it in Spanish. Go for it.
Ok, don't push it. A Mariana faz a pergunta: olá, queridos, qual o processo e visto indicado para um pesquisador de pós-doutorado que quer passar 2 anos no Canadá e depois aplicar por um PR? Basta, there's a question, there is almost a pre-consulting here. It's that what will be the best visa process for a researcher of postdoctorate that wishes to spend 2 years in Canada and then applies for a PR?
Yeah, so there's a specific work permit you can get. So if you're going to do a placement here, part of your PhD, right, part of your research, you can get a work permit for 1 or 2 years. And then with your work experience here, again, you're going to be working with your professor. As long as it's a paid experience for a minimum of 30 hours, you can use this for immigration. So this is one of the categories that are exempted from LMIA. So you don't need an employer sponsorship. So you're going to be applying for a work permit for you to get this placement for 2 years, part of your PhD program for the research you're going to be doing in Canada.
Okay, just to be sure. So she's going to apply for both a study permit and a work permit for the PhD?
She would be already studying in Canada. So she's studying in Brazil, right?
Yes,
and she just wants to take a break and come to Canada and do a research program, part of their program to do research, but she wants to do it here. So she would only apply for a work permit. There's no study component.
Okay. So that would allow her to after that apply for a PR, for instance. Ok. Bom, Ana, a grande questão aqui é que para você fazer seus 2 anos de pesquisa no seu pós-doutorado, no seu PhD, seria aplicar para um visto de trabalho, né, para que você passe esses 2 anos e que você consiga, nesse período, junto com o pesquisador, fazer com que isso se qualifique como um emprego. E aí você teria 2 anos de emprego, o que geraria opções para que você aplicasse para o seu PR também, né? Esse é o caso que eu acho, Mariana, que seria legal você fazer uma consulta lá, aquela que o Basil mencionou, para que você pavimente esse caminho, porque, como ele falou, é algo que você viu como ele respondeu rapidamente, quer dizer, é algo que é bastante potencial e interessante para você vir também. Tá?
So this is for example, an exemption for the researchers. There's a quick one for 120 days, and there's a different one also. I'm going to look it up real quick for the college, for the university research.
Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of suggesting her to check for this consultation so that we can
definitely
pave the way for the. Okay. A Marcele pergunta aqui: aceita em parceria com algum college no Atlântico? Marcele, nós temos sim, com todas as províncias do Atlântico. Portanto, se você ou qualquer um que estiver assistindo aqui tem interesse de fazer pelo provincial do Atlântico, a gente está super acostumado a ajudar clientes para fazer tanto do Atlântico como do norte de Ontário, como também da GBC. A gente está super pronto para ajudar com os colleges necessários, tá? Se você quiser, aciona a gente aqui, a gente já conversa com você, seja por uma loja CI no Brasil, não tem problema, a gente ajuda você nesse processo, tá bom? She was asking, this is a question to CI. She asked about if we do have any partnership with Atlantic College. So yes, we do, of course. And yeah. Tem outra pergunta aqui do Weasley. Ele pergunta: eu vou pegar meu bacharelado esse ano e no ano que vem eu vou começar meu college no Canadá. Eu sempre foquei os meus estudos em inglês, da língua inglesa. Então, eu posso melhorar mais para uma residência permanente ou para a imigração? Basil Weasley is asking, I'm going to get my bachelor degree this year, and next year I'm going to start my college in Canada. I've always focused my students in English language. So can I improve more for a PR or immigration?
So improving your language proficiency for PR, right? And this is something I always recommend, right? So whenever you're going to apply for your college in Canada, they're going to ask you for around IELTS 6, right? IELTS 6 in the academic, 6.5 wherever you're going to go, okay? My advice to you is don't stop there, right? Continue studying English, because remember, the minimum requirement for immigration, not for your studies. This has nothing to do with your studies. For immigration, whenever you want to apply for your permanent residency, I want to see if I have the table for you, right? It's 7 in reading, 7 in writing, 7 in speaking, and 8 in listening, and the general training test, okay? This is the score you need to aim for. You need to prepare yourself from now. You need to prepare yourself as soon as you arrive in Canada, after you finish your college. You need to get to this level, no questions asked. That's the key to immigration, not from me, not from Jan, from the Canadian government. That's what their intention is, to have people with strong English so you can get a good job that pays a lot of money, so you can pay good taxes back to them, and then everybody goes home happy. So that's why they focus on advanced language proficiency.
Okay, Basil, this was the last question that we had.
That's it?
Yeah, this is.
Okay, now I'm going to quiz you.
Yeah, it's great. I think we could walk through all the questions here.
All right.
And all. So I'm going to make like a quick ending to that. Willie is already here just to help us.
I know, this is our cue. This is the,
This is our cue, yeah.
They get out.
Pessoal, bom, essas são as últimas perguntas, não tem mais nenhuma, então acho que a gente pode também encerrar. Já estamos aqui nas 8h20 da noite no horário do Brasil. Pessoal, são muitas as perguntas, né? São muitas as questões, não hesitem. Se vocês tiverem outras perguntas, certamente vocês vão ter. Aciona uma loja da CEI aí no Brasil, conversa com a gente pode ajudar vocês no processo. Vamos para o assessment de imigração, aquela avaliação que o Bassel mencionou, para fazer realmente o caminho que funciona, são muitas as alternativas, e estamos aqui para ajudar. Bassel, thank you very much for your time. I think it was very valuable information as always. Those that we cannot find inside the Facebook groups at all. It's like a trap over there, right?
The opposite too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you very much. So,
absolutely.
If you want to say something at the end of that.
Look, we do this not just for a living, right? We do this ourselves. I mean, I have my own family. I've got my niece, my nephew. I mean, the advice that we give is not just for you to fill a form, right? The way that you need to think about what to do next is coming up with the right plan for yourself and your family. So then you're like, it's playing Lego. You're putting the right pieces in the right places. Instead of just saying, oh, I'm just going to go and start spending money, and you don't know about something, and then it becomes too late and you're stuck and you make one mistake after another. So the reason why we did this whole thing today is we spoke to Jan, we spoke to all of you guys today, is just to give you this idea that, listen, you need to be consulted by a professional, right? I'm here just to help people. Jan is here to help people. Sia is here to help people, just so that you can make your journey a bit easier when it comes to Canada. Immigration is never easy. Going to another country is never easy. It's exciting, but also we need to have somebody like us, you know, me and Jan are the boring people, to make sure everything's in compliance, everything is in order, just for you to be able to enjoy your stay, right?
Okay. Bassel, thank you very much.
Of course.
Pessoal, agradeço aí tudo. O Willy agora já está aqui já para fazer o fechamento. Valeu, Willy. Você achou que valeu a pena?
Achei que foi ótimo. Thank you, Bassel.
Of course.
Foi muito bom, Ian, muito legal, muito produtivo, muito proveitoso. Lembrando a todos aqui que estão presentes ainda aqui com a gente no nosso webinar, que para a gente continuar esse bate-papo, seja com o Ian, ou com o time do Ian no Canadá, da CI no Canadá, ou com o time do Bassel também na Incubate, no escritório da Incubate no Canadá, a gente pode encontrar esse bate-papo aí mais formal com eles e tirar todas as suas dúvidas, as dúvidas que sejam pertinentes exclusivamente para você, com toda a consultoria especializada que a Incubate tem. Então, basta aí vocês entrarem no site ci.com.br/WhatsApp, que vocês conseguem encontrar a loja da CI mais próxima de vocês e pedir para que a gente promova esse encontro aí e já dá o play nessa consultoria junto com a Incubate e com todo o auxílio da CI no Canadá também. Gente, é isso. Obrigado mais uma vez. Boa noite para vocês. E não se esqueçam de entrar no nosso site e buscar a loja da CI mais próxima e tirar de vez do papel esse projeto e realizar o sonho aí de fazer a imigração para o Canadá. Ian, Bassel, thank you. Boa noite. Tchau, gente.